TwoSun Tuesday coming back at you once again, and hopefully this week I'll actually remember to schedule the video instead of just uploading it like I did last week, which is why I still made it into Tuesday, but not by much here in the mountain time zone here in the U.S. So yes, this is a TS312. I haven't seen a whole bunch of these guys around for a while. Which makes me think that they probably weren't going to make it past that first run, but there's a lot of really interesting things going on with this. First off, it's a night morning design. Second off, this was probably one of the first ones that I remember that had the call-out pivot collars here. However, these ones aren't flat; they're actually concave. So if you were to actually try to modify those to remove the lettering or something like that, it's going to be a little bit more difficult. You're going to definitely want to work with a slack belt or at least something with a lot of give to it or something like that. Not that I'm saying you have to, but some people really, really hate that. So there you go. Next up, believe it or not, this handle material is micarta, and this comes from a time when TwoSun really was using that kind of funky micarta. Let's see if I can't pull some out here. Sure, yeah, we got some from this guy. What is this, the 48? Yeah, 48. Where it was kind of burlappy, didn't really have much texture to it and stuff like that. You know, the stuff I end up calling mehcarta. This was definitely something quite a bit different, and I still haven't really seen a whole lot like it from them or other manufacturers. But yeah, it's definitely micarta. You can see some of the fibers around the screw, and technically there was a couple of them around some other areas that I had trimmed up just a little tiny bit. So yeah, very, very highly compressed and dense micarta. Doesn't really have a huge amount of texture going on to it, but there's a heck of a lot of milling, as we can see from the light shining on it. And it really does feel super, super nice in the hand. Maybe a little bit more like a fully synthetic material, like G10 or something like that. But still, hey, it's micarta. And it was a good first step for them. Between that and the canvas kind of stuff that we know today from some of the more recent ones. So very interesting from that point. This thing only came with orange G10 thumb deployment little guys. Kind of a really strange idea. I will go ahead and deploy it by those. It works out all right. And as we can see, we have a very, very gradual recurve to this, but for all intents and purposes, it is going to be a Warncliffe. This thing looks a little smaller, at least, just standard to my eyes than the measurements that I ended up getting off of them, but that's okay. This thing is pretty darn comfortable in the hand here, and of course, if you don't have absolutely enormous fingers, or you have just a little bit more control, you can easily use that little finger choil there. And from basically right around the top of the scale out to the tip, we have 3.42 inches. And like I said, it looks a little bit smaller than that to my eyes. Jeez, I'm way off center on the camera. Sorry about that. Yeah, it just looks a little bit smaller than a lot of other almost 3.5-inch kind of knives out there, and kind of feels that way. So that's pretty darn good, I would say. We got that folded over clip. Before I move on, yeah, we got 3.42 inches for the blade. That's 86.9 millimeters for the metrically inclined out there. For the pivot, we don't really have much going on there outside of the collar. Just kind of a standard through-hole thing with a screw on the other side. Something that Wong has ended up using a little bit more than some other designers there. But yeah, so the blade. For all intents and purposes, it pretty much is a Warncliffe. We got a swedge out towards the top there that keeps the tip fairly thin going on. And yeah, I really do like this thing. Because of that finger choil and right where that hook is, you can really get a nice reverse grip there and not have to worry at all about anything kind of coming close to your actual finger there. So I appreciate that. And because it has that very slight recurve, um, it has just a little bit of that hawkbill kind of thing of pulling material into it towards the latter half there to kind of keep the material in the blade rather than slipping out. Still, for the most part, it's very gradual, and that's why I say it's it basically is a Warncliffe. Yeah, we got their folded over deep carry clip that they continue to use to this day. It's definitely much better than their stamped black clips from out in the day. And they work, but they're really not designed for a whole lot of knives. Luckily, this one I don't have much problems with here. With that folded over piece, it doesn't really come anywhere in contact with like my pinky knuckle, probably just due to the shape on the end of the knife and not having that folded area right out there at the tip. So it ends up working out quite well in a whole bunch of grips. Of course, you can also reverse grip that if you were looking for a little bit more uh, penetrative power, whether or not you're using that for self-defense or just really needing to get into a particular material, then there you go with that. Um, Also, this has a 14C28N steel, as we can see. There we go. I can actually get some lights on there. So this was made before they basically made the switch back to essentially D2 for absolutely every model ever made, except for very few in M390. So, you can definitely appreciate that if that's something that you do like. I don't know if I can get pretty much on camera, but this, along with many others, did come with a couple of surface scratches and stuff like that. And it seems to happen definitely with these guys, but not exclusive to them for a 14C28N with a satin finish. It is a little bit softer on the front side or the facing side from all those sorts of things. Probably part of the reason why this knife, the blade steel was designed for use in razor blades and replaceable razor blades and stuff like that. So, I mean, it is kind of a derivative of AEBL as well. Like Nitro V kind of is as a newer variant that's made here in the States rather than in Sweden. I want to say Sweden, one of the Scandinavian countries. But yeah, that's just something to keep in mind there. We got some crenellation type of jimping up top there. Not super aggressive, but it still works really well. And if you really don't like the look of the thumb deployment things there, you can either RIT dye them whatever color you want, or just straight up take them off, because this also has a flipper tab on it that works super well. So, if you don't care for the thumb deployment at all, just take it off. This thing does have a good bit of lock bar access to it. We have steel liners in this particular case here. And they are, the show side has a decent amount of skeletonization going on the inside. The lock bar side, basically none. But, that makes enough sense. You're really going to be taking off basically points of a gram from a lot of that stuff on that side. So it makes sense that they didn't really bother with a whole lot of that. This guy has barrel spacers in here. I don't remember. We'll find out during the disassembly sort of thing. But I do think that these are Chicago screws that are basically going through, and then we have the barrel spacers that thread on top. So we don't have the material screwing directly into the barrel spacers. like I said, I don't quite remember, but we'll find that out a little bit later if you're actually interested in that. This thing does have a detent ramp. You can see it starts to engage with the blade right here. And then you're over it right here once it's past your kind of thumb thing there. So you can do that, or you can do the drop to your thumb, but you're not over that detent at that point. So it will either take a lot more downward force to do that, or you can just, not drop something down on your thumb. It really depends on maybe if you got some, I don't know, dainty or brittle little fingernails like I tend to do most of the time, which is why I generally don't do a thumb drop when I close a knife, just because I don't need any more impact damage to my nails than I already received due to my clumsy nature. But, alright, so blade stock thickness on this, 3.6 millimeters. So a little bit thin for TwoSun standard 3.8, so that's good. We have, it's basically a high flat grind going on here. Nice concave kind of grind things going on. The plunge grind is very gradual, but probably ends right around here, I want to say. Let's get that nice and up close to the camera here. So yeah, you're not really going to have too many troubles on doing that. You can see I do have some kind of stuff here on the sides of the blade. I, for one, haven't cleaned it up supremely well after just using it a little bit right before this review to familiarize myself with it a little bit. But I have also kind of nicked up a little bit of the edge of the blade while I was doing my reprofiling and sharpening. And that one happened from the work sharp, not the KME, where I'm a little bit more prone to guarantee that I'm going to scratch out the face of the blade there, right at the shoulder. But still, after employing some painter's tape while I'm doing my sharpening, that doesn't happen anymore. But still, this is a little bit older model. But yeah, this thing is a really, really good jammy, and I mean, at least at the time that they came out, I think I paid less than $40 for it. It's pretty fantastic. I mean, the pivot collars on them, yes, they're titanium. So if you don't mind the lettering on it or whatever, but you did want to have a little bit more pop of color or something like that, you're certainly able to do that. If I do remember right, the barrel spacers on here are steel, though. They're not titanium, and definitely not aluminum. I haven't really seen TwoSun do anything in aluminum thus far. And luckily, we really can't get to that blade there. If this was 3.8 to 4 millimeters, we might be able to get up to that little heel right there. But as it is, it's really nice and protected in there. And we can see that does a pretty good job of employing about as much of the handle length for blade ratio and all that we can get. Let's see. So the other measurement I want to get out there is the thickness on here. It's 0.61 of an inch here, so quite a bit thicker than the about ½ inch. Plus just a little tiny bit of something like the Spyderco Paramilitary 2. That's 15.4 millimeters for the metrically inclined folks. But it does have a nice bit of contouring, and as you've seen earlier, quite a bit of milling as well in there, which is just pretty interesting. But let's see. Let's go ahead and do some blade size comparisons. Speaking of the Paramilitary 2, let's go ahead and pull that out there. And kind of match those up. And short, why not? Since I'm using some Spydercos here, jeez. There's the Enduro, which, yeah, it's definitely a larger blade overall than that. Excuse me. Alrighty, no real sense in pulling out the Maddox 2XL because this thing is just, or it's enormous compared to it. But let's go ahead and do some Benchmades. Here we go. I can finally start using my Benchmade Griptilian. And yeah, it's got a lot of similar ratios and things going on there. There's a Benchmade 940, nice and thin. It's definitely much more in the size way of the Griptilian there. This one, I did just replace the scales with G10, but otherwise they are the same dimensions. Keep it on with a Benchman. There's the bug out, much smaller, of course, and something that well, yeah, we got some other guys that might be a little bit useful. There's a K-bar folding hunter, quite a bit smaller. There's also, I suppose, the rat one. That's the one in D2. They did just recently at least announce that they're making them with S35 VN, which is kind of interesting, but still maybe a little bit in the past for what some people might be expecting when something like the Hogue Deca has come out for just a little tiny bit more money, and it's using MagnaCut. And also because it's a very, very popular knife, and I have one and haven't really thought about it. We have the Civivi Elementum because it's a really, really popular design. Yeah, it's the Desert Warrior pattern. What are you going to do? I wasn't going to purposefully buy this knife unless it had something kind of special and different about it. So there you go. I just think it's a little bit too small for my hands. But that's not to say that the original button lock version of it isn't an absolutely fantastic knife. A lot of people hate it because of that lock. That's why they have the Elementum 2 that's a button lock, but it's not this size. It's the normal size. All right, yeah, that's digression over. So we got all sorts of blade size comparisons and all of that sort of stuff kind of taken care of. Yeah, I really, really do like this thing. Because of the really, really gradual kind of curvature of the blade, it's still very easy to sharpen on some flat stone systems and stuff like that. Might be a little bit difficult if you're working with a really, really wide bench stone. You might have to end up working over on a corner, which generally isn't super wanted there because then you unevenly wear the stone or something like that. But a lot of set systems, especially 1 inch wide or less, like the KME and Work Sharp Precision Adjust and all that sort of stuff, works out super great. No problems there, and you can sharpen it all day long without any problems. But yeah, I don't really have a whole lot else that I can say about it, but I was really, really happy with this thing when I first got it in. Really interesting, especially the black and white zebra kind of look that you usually get out of G10, but they ended up doing that with Micarta here. So it looks fairly unique, and I do like that. And of course, because it's like this, like a lot of their other zebra kind of designs here, sure, since that's just what I have available. This is the Orca giant old knife. But because it's done kind of in a similar fashion, you can dye the white or natural portions of this to another color. So if you wanted to, I don't know, for whatever reason, match that orange thumb stud and get some orange and black going on, you could do that. But you could also do it with basically any other colors, and it ends up working out all right. Because of how dense it is, it's going to take a while in that Rit dye bath. Probably a little bit longer than you're used to for even dyeing G10 and stuff like that. It takes a little bit longer than standard micarta, but it will work. So there's that. Yeah, that's basically everything that I wanted to cover for the standard review. I am going to go ahead and take this thing apart. So if that's what you want to stick around for and see any of that, let's go ahead and do it. We got T8 hardware all the way around, including the pocket clip, which is good. Looks like mine was a little off center at the moment, so hey, I can at least recenter that when I put this thing back together. Let's see, yeah. Nah, Knock, knock, we coming in. This thing is really holding closed. That's why we can use a little bit of a spudger. If you particularly care about something, you can use a plastic one rather than something like this metal guy here. But these are a heck of a lot more effective. So there's that. Alright, yeah, it's just that the Chicago screws and everything really shoved in there nice and tight. That's going to be a little difficult for me to end up getting the rest of this out without doing anything super drastic. But I do believe that's something that needs to happen. So let's go ahead and do that. Hopefully I can actually do this with a piece of wood here. This is an orange stick for, I guess it's made for fingernail kind of things here. There we go. A lot of times if I really need something strong, I'll end up doing that with a little watch bar tool. But hey, if I can do it with wood, and those guys are nice and cheap, then yeah, it's definitely the way to go. It takes a little bit of doing to actually get into this thing here. Yeah, this thing seems to have basically warped or moved just a little tiny bit, which is why I was having difficulty. Also why I'm having difficulty fully getting the stupid pivot completely out as well. You know, a lot of times you can use a screwdriver or something like that to end up dealing with it. But there we go. And sure, we can also take out these guys here. We have a couple of stop pins. There goes one of them, unfortunately. Since I'm an idiot. But yeah, here we go on the underside. Not anything super duper crazy looking on the inside there. We do have a D-shaped pivot, but this was kind of one of their earlier versions of it, so it's got that little notch rather than it being all the way there. That also means that that notch is on the lock bar side rather than the show side, which makes things just a little bit more difficult to end up fully dealing with here. Haha. I found the piece I was missing. So, yeah, nothing super crazy interesting on the inside. There's a detent ramp. We got all of that sort of good stuff going on in there. We got a stonewash on the flats. I guess I didn't necessarily mention that. But still, yeah, very interesting and different design. Let's see if it is just at least a little bit easier to get some things through. Yeah, that pivot's still just a little bit stiff, so this thing is going to be a little more annoying to put back together than some other knives that they, most other knives that they end up doing. Man. Sorry for me clearing my throat. I apparently got something itchy going on there, but I do want to actually finish doing this particular video. Alrighty, let's shove the Chicago screws through as well. Yeah, it does, at least from this particular perspective, does kind of seem like the tolerance on this thing wasn't quite what a lot of their other knives ended up being. I don't know if that's particularly my specimen or if that's common for this particular model, but hey, I'm gonna at least call it as I see it. Maybe they ran into some construction issues with these guys, which is why they didn't do many other runs of them or something. I don't know. It is what it is. I still like the knife, and it still feels nice once it's all fully put back together. Even though it's probably not super visible, yeah, I do use KPL basically on all my knives. And I got a thin layer going on here, so I don't really feel the need to re-lubricate any of these guys. Also want to remember to put those barrel spacers back on there. Yeah, this thing is just going to fight me tooth and nail to get back together. For the most part, I got everything in there, but as we can see, one of the Chicago screws in the back isn't quite at the proper angle. But just a little bit of a screwdriver coercion, we can get that back in there. So, alrighty. Let's make sure we get that big old controversial pivot collar back on there. And close this guy up. I will pull the two pieces together. Pivot is a little loose. Alright, now it's just got a little tiny bit of wiggle, so I can tighten that up just a little tiny bit. Yeah, we all back together. Cool, so this one was just a little bit more annoying to end up dealing with and reassembling than the other one here. But we still got it. In this particular case, if we had tolerances like these for something, say, like a button lock, that thing would fail a lot. So I guess it's good that they haven't really done any of their button locks like that. I've been fighting with quite a few of them recently. Most of them Civivi and Sencut related, but there's also the Towser K button lock that's in that mix that just absolutely failing, and absolutely nothing I can do to fix any of them. So I'm kind of thinking about sending at least some of them back to the manufacturers, going like, look, can I get a different one, or can you guys figure out what the hell's going wrong with them? Because the way they are with the locks that end up jamming, at that point I don't want to carry it, because it'll jam the knife so it won't lock open or closed. So I can't safely carry it either way. So that makes it absolutely useless. Something that a good, liner or frame lock isn't really going to have that problem. So, at least there's those guys there. Yeah, and as we can see, I still don't have perfect centering going on that guy there. And I do think that probably has to do a little bit with the tolerance or something like that going on one of those steel liners on the inside. But knife still works out all right. But cool. Well, there we go. This video went on a little bit longer than it probably should have, but there we go. We got a cover. This TS312 night morning design here in 14C28N, and interesting micarta. So as always, I appreciate y'all for watching, and have yourself a wonderful rest of your day, yo. Subscribe, please.